All right. Last of Us season 1 has just ended. We are live to discuss our feelings. What were you expecting going into this? Like, we both know the ending of the game, so that's what, we're expecting that. But how did you think it was going to go?
Hold on, I'm going to close my door real quick. I can hear fucking TV from back here. Hold on.
Ricky's closing his door. Excuse me. So, yeah. I knew how this was going to go, and there's more details that I think I knew before, but seeing it's like, yeah, Joel is a bad guy in a way.
Well, so I mean, going into this, we knew pretty much what the ending was going to be, and it was pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to go based on the first game and how that goes. And I mean, I was kind of hoping for the TV show they'd flesh out more stuff in some way, or just have some other type of interactions that make it more meaningful, or that add something that's a little different in the game. No, it's pretty much exactly like the game, as far as I can tell, with this ending, and it felt very hollow, not in the sense that it didn't achieve the right emotional stuff, but like it was just like, oh, this is. I guess like if when you get to the end of a season, you're supposed to feel kind of full, like oh, I all these things led to here, and things happen in this episode that are important for the characters, which it does, but it's just like I don't know how to describe it. It's just like it feels like this was a in between episode that this is like, oh, there's going to be a one more after this though, kind of an episode, and it's like, no, this one's the last one.
Yeah, it felt unsatisfying in the weirdest way. Such a good show. So we got some Inception in this. If y'all didn't stick around, if you've watched this, if you didn't stick around for the post show, like little like 2-minute thing with the creators and the actors, the original Ellie actress plays Ellie's mom for this like flashback scene of Ellie's birth, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, the characters from the game and actors from the game have been sprinkled throughout this essentially. So it
yeah,
is
I just
interesting.
didn't expect that, and it's like, oh, I could totally see, you know, in this world, yeah, that could totally be her mom. There's enough resemblance there that it's believable.
Yeah, I mean, in the right angles, I was like, that looks like Ellie, and then it like, oh no, it isn't. But it's like, yeah, for the game, sure. But yeah, this was neat. I mean, I feel like that was a better type of choice. She and Tommy, I think, got a good like casting type of thing to be in the show. As for Joel's voice actor, like in the show, he played as the one of the dudes that got cleaved in the last episode. And it was like, I don't know, I that's so I would never have thought like, oh, he played that guy. It's just like so on anything. Like even if he was one of the guys that Joel beat up in the thing, that'd be better, I think, because it's like, oh, remember when he stabbed the knife in the guy's kneecap and was twisting it, and then the guy's like, "Fuck you,
Oh
asshole."
yeah, Joel kills Joel. That'd
Yeah, or
be
something like
interesting.
that. That'd be more interesting to me, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really add anything, but neither does him being there as to where Ellie being Ellie's mom is like something, I guess, and Tommy's voice actor being the bearded dude that gets ripped apart by the bloater is kind of something. In a way, it's respect, oddly, as to where in other things you'd be shitting on them, but in this, I don't know if you know what I mean here. I don't even know if I'm making
Yeah, I
sense.
mean, they could have just totally like, oh, now that we got an HBO budget, we'll just ignore these bullshit actors for
I
the
guess
game.
I guess I should say that like they're involved in impactful moments in the show, and they were also in the game, so that's important.
Yeah, so let's walk through the episode a bit for people.
This
So,
won't take long, guys. Honestly, to walk through the episode, it's so brief and not much
hello,
happens in
Jedi
it.
Bill. Thank you for joining. Did
Hello.
you watch the show? Anyone coming in, let us know how you rate this episode and how you feel about the season. Uh, this can sort of be a season finale recap, I guess, comment based. If you're throwing stuff out there, we can think full spectrum now. And yeah, what's up, Phil TMNT?
What's up,
Howdy.
Philly boy?
Yeah, so this starts out with a flashback of Ellie's birth. Her mom is which we have no idea that this is Ellie's mom to start with, but you just see this woman, she's running into a building, she's like, hey, I'm here, and she's freaking out. You get the sense that she's being chased by cordyceps.
I wasn't sure when they like showed the wide shot of her coming to, like, approaching the building, and there was like a good, I don't know, like 30 to 50 feet behind her with nobody there. I was like, is somebody hunting her? Or because I would imagine that I would have heard or seen.
Yeah, I got I don't know if this is from the game or not at all. I assume from what they were talking that this was just an add-on for this show.
Yeah, I don't think Ellie's mom's in the game at all.
Yeah, but this is for the show an explanation to her immunity. So she's pregnant, she's her water's breaking, birth is imminent. She's trying to push through and hide and not be susceptible to attack.
Which is difficult when your options are literally as thin as, well, hopefully I can get into the house and close the door, and hopefully that holds from any cordyceps coming through, and I will be on the ground trying to have a baby. So here we go.
Yeah, I got a Quiet Place vibes. If y'all seen Quiet Place, pregnancy in a world where you have to be quiet or these monsters will kill you because they hunt by sound. It's very impactful and intense. So I got that vibe from this, and her water's breaking while she's walking up the stairs, and so this is like, it's go time. And she gets in a room, finds a chair, shoves it under the door knob to block the door, and she's trying to brace herself, and then of course the cordyceps breaks through, starts trying to attack her, and she happens to get her knife, kill the cordyceps, and oh look, she crapped out a baby.
she literally kills the cordyceps and it's like, then she like glances down. Oh yeah, right, baby. Oh yeah, shit. Like, yeah, it looks like she totally forgot that she just gave birth.
Which honestly, I haven't experienced two pregnancies with my kids. One was like, took forever to even have the impetus to start actually delivering the baby, and then he was like yo-yoing in the canal for like 2 hours.
Does that mean he's like playing peekaboo or something? Like,
no, he's just like, she's starting to push and he's coming out, but then he just like, she can't get enough up, and so he's just like stuck in the canal for a minute. So he's
like, never mind, no.
Yeah, and yeah, his mom was like falling asleep off and on. That's how weird the delivery was for him. But then my daughter, they like started the induction, whatever, of the birth, and then boop, there's the baby, and it's like seemed pretty painless for her, all things considered, pretty quick. But yeah, so having experienced that, it's just funny seeing this scenario. It's like, yeah, I think the shock of like, I'm going to die, like, you know how near-death experiences, you might crap yourself or piss yourself, you just lose control. I feel like whatever complications of forcing yourself without any medical assistance to shove a baby out, the rush of like, I'm going to die, might have actually helped her in her delivery.
Most likely, yes, hopefully.
But yeah, twist, she got bit on the leg, and so she hurries up and cuts the umbilical cord, but the infection's already coursing through her body, and it as we've seen, the onset can be pretty fast, and so the way blood flows, when I was in the Army, we had goat labs where we would test our skills on sedated goats. So, and before they did any of the maiming on these incapacitated goats, they showed us how quick blood flow is, and so they injected it with green dye, and then you see how quick the dye goes through the body in the bloodstream, like its eyes turn green and shit. So like, having that experience in real life, even though this is all fiction, it's like, depending if it like hit your bloodstream, yeah, this could probably course pretty quick. So I believe it for this scenario. And the whole thing is, oh, the cordyceps is like through the bloodstream, through the uterus, the placenta to the baby, and so instantly I'm thinking, are we going to see a zombie baby? Because we don't know this is Ellie's mom yet, and so I'm wondering like what how does this fit in? And then yeah, it's Ellie. She names her, and the baby's like, wah, and she's comforting her, and it's like, okay, that's nice. And then we cut to Ellie in the modern day, and it's like, if you didn't get it, that's Ellie.
It'd be funny if they cut to a boy. It's just like, wait a minute, that's not right.
That'd be funny if it's like a fake out, and then it's like, oh yeah,
or no, that was
boy
Joel's.
is with
Ellie. That was
Ellie.
Joel's birth. Not just kidding. Be like, wait, he was born before? What? Shut up.
No wonder he's so angry. But yeah, no, it's pretty good, intense scene, and then we cut to Ellie in modern day with Joel, and they're close to trying to figure out where this hospital is for the Fireflies for their mission. The whole impetus of this show, getting her with this immunity coursing through her body, trying to find a cure, and they're so close to the finish line. And Joel starts to try to influence her, be like, we don't have to do this. Actually, we can just quit. We can just go home. Whatever. We can go back to Tommy's or wherever. And she's like, no, we're gonna see this through. And you see the like reluctance.
He's like,
in Joel.
You could have just said no.
Yeah. I thought that was good. It's good character stuff here. And my theory, Ricky, the relationship theory, do you want me to say that? To offer that to the audience?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I said this maybe midway through the show, maybe episode 4, I think.
Yeah.
I said, it's a good thing she's gay, because this could easily be a Lolita story of like, especially in the apocalypse where social norms that we have, age of consent, all that, be potentially thrown out the door, especially with how imminent death is around every corner. And the closeness to the bond they're building, it could easily be a Lolita scenario. Some of the dialogue and scenarios lend itself to that, where it's like, well, that's not going to happen because she's gay. So it's like never a thought. And then you see his, they very much streamline it to be like, reluctantly, this is like another daughter for him. And he's starting to have this bond in that way. But without that restraint of her sexuality, I think it could lend itself. And the dialogue in this episode, if you never thought of this, listen to some of the dialogue of like, we got to do this, but afterward, like, I'll go wherever you want. And so like, this sounds like some like Notebook kind of stuff, like a romance story, the same kind of dialogue.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that it sounds like when they killed the boy in the beginning, like, we're going to go, you can get your favorite ice cream. Get whatever you want. It's like, oh, no, thank you. No.
It's not that I'm like shipping them. It's just like, to me, narratively, I totally see that as a potential, if not for her being gay. And so, I don't know. It's just an interesting thread there where it's like, maybe they didn't even realize what they wrote, that you could glean that. I'm sure there's some shippers in the world for this.
Right. Going swimming. What's up, men's room?
What is up? And we got the Appalachian America in the men's room.
What's happening?
How you feel about this episode, man? Just your overall rating, your feelings, and then we're breaking it down. We're about right before they like find the giraffe and stuff.
Okay. I rated the show out of 5 a 3.
Okay.
That makes sense. That's fair.
It felt very rushed.
Yeah, I felt like it was over in a heartbeat.
I thought that the intro scene was a total waste of time.
Really?
It was just an opportunity to use Ashley Johnson, I feel. I mean, what do I care? But like, it really didn't add nothing. I mean, every bit of exposition. You see how that there was history with that knife. I mean, but it really didn't do anything that we already didn't know.
I mean, I thought the obvious thing for it was to show exactly how or like why she's immune.
I guess. I mean, she initially said that in the hospital, so I was like, okay.
In the game,
No. Well, in the show,
she said what in the hospital?
she said that it'd come from birth, and I guess it was just showing you how.
Oh, okay. So, not having this scene, I would have assumed that it was just like a random mutation that she's born after this pandemic started, the apocalypse, more suitable word, especially with what we've experienced the last couple of years, the pandemic.
Yeah.
Such a bullshit word now.
The way that this shows it is almost like it could have been where she turns into a zombie baby, but it was like so close.
Yeah, because we don't know who it is yet, and so it's like I was expecting maybe that twist of like, fuck, we're gonna see a baby cordyceps.
I mean, I think if anything, it's worth it for showing that type of thing, especially if the scene isn't in the game, right? Like this type of showing the mom at all.
No.
Right. So like I feel like that makes some kind of sense for it, and I guess in terms of the episode, it's supposed to show like why the friend that's there, the Firefly
Marlene
friend, is like was Melina in the first episode of Last of Us?
Yeah,
she was in Boston,
the one that got shot, right?
Yeah, she was the one in Boston. She's the one that told Joel and Tess to if she'll do it, they'll give her the car battery.
Okay, right. I was just making sure I wasn't like, oh, she looks exactly like that character, and I'm just combining the two or something.
Yeah.
So,
okay. I think. Oh,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, for just like creativity wise, there's a couple angles where I think there's a point to that scene. For one, it's like a way to like, hey, let's find a way to cast original Ellie into the show, and this will be kind of like a cool Inception idea of Ellie birthing Ellie, and for the fans. But also people that are fans like Walking Dead, it's very irritating because Kirkman will like never explain the zombie apocalypse, what started it, where like the origins, what it is exactly, if there's a cure, etc. There's always like unanswered things that like that's not the point of it, and so he's never going to address it, and that's really irritating. So I think maybe this was kind of like, all right, we're there's a vague assumption said by Joel to explain like, well, it's probably in the food, mold in the food, and it's mutated, and so it's mass production, it's everywhere. Okay, that's enough of like plausible, still not definitive, but yeah, at least they're explaining her immunity, and it's not just like, oh, she's born with it, whatever, it's a mutation. It's like actually giving some like concrete detail for the audience, and for a show that's not just fed you every emotion and like explicitly said this is what they're feeling, like they just let it breathe, let you take it in. I like that once in a while a show like that will explicitly state something. So I think all around that's kind of the point of that scene. What were you saying, Ricky?
I don't remember. I was just saying that, I think there's enough reason to have this kind of scene in the show, but I mean, going into the episode, like when they're walking around and she's kind of depressed. I mean, I'm assuming that Ellie was kind of bummed because this is the end of the journey, but then she seemed determined. I'm not sure if that's how that comes off in the game too. I'm just wondering if that's how it plays out. Yeah, men's room. Yeah, since you played the game, right?
I'm sorry. I'm reading.
You're the game expert for this panel, so I was like,
I'm so sorry.
Tossing it to you. See,
I was reading. The Last of Us is trending right now, and I was trying to see what was going on. What was going to say? I'm sorry. Ask your question, please.
Yeah, I was saying that in this episode, Ellie seemed kind of bummed at the beginning, like when they're first shown. She seems like bummed out. I was wondering if she's kind of bummed like that in the game around this point too.
No, No, she was very energetic. They both were pretty excited about getting there, getting, you know, doing what they needed to do. There was no awkward conversation about where she kind of had to tell him to like relax and that she had to go do something. And that she knows that he means well, but uh I made a note that was like they just can't help but dump on Joel's character. Like they make him so like, oh well, we could just do this, we could do that, we could go back to Tommy's, and that conversation never took place.
Yeah, I gotcha. I mean, I feel like this episode, I could like if they wanted to do something that's more in line with how he is in this show. I don't know if that works either. I was like, I don't think you just go through all that and just like, yeah, just fully turn around either. I don't know.
Yeah,
If there was more reason for him to want to say that, like if he was like, I feel like at this point, like if they were meeting the Fireflies and he's feeling uneasy about it, like if they were talking and it's like, man, I'm getting a weird vibe off these guys. Like what's going on here? They're kind of avoiding telling me what they want to do with Ellie or something. Like I'd be, and it's like, yeah, we can just turn around now if we want. You know, she's like, no, I want to see what they can do. Like, I feel like I thought that's what the show was going to do, is like have them kind of get to know this group of Fireflies a little bit before doing something. Do you think that would have been a good move for the show, or what do you think?
I mean, could have. My issue is that I've seen how the entire story so far in the Last of Us lore has gone, like the game versions of both. I believe that when The Last of Us 1 came out, there was so much like Joel's a beloved character, yada yada yada. They go into The Last of Us 2 with a different writer, I think. And mainly the creative is just head up by Neil Druckmann. They changed so much stuff and made Joel to be like this jerk douchebag of a character that had done a whole lot of bad stuff, which I mean, I guess you do bad things in apocalypse, take care of your people, but that's subjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is now we're going back to the TV format, and I want to say that they're writing Joel to be more weak and more of a bad character, to where that when he gets his demise in season 2, when they follow along with how the plot and stuff of the game is going to go, and he gets the clubbing, um that people are going to be like, oh, okay, whatever. And you know, he is kind of a weak character. You know, he made bad decisions because he was selfish, which I mean, yeah, I guess he was selfish in the game, but you had more of a story, you had more of a relationship building in the game than you did on the show. So I guess from a game aspect, you can see where they have a relationship, whereas in the show, it's I felt that it was very forced. That I just don't see where that he would feel compelled to save her, other than the flashbacks he kept having about his daughter and stuff.
I gotcha. I mean, I can see how I think in the game you end up spending a lot more time with the two together. There's a significant amount more time that is
It's about
spent.
20 hours.
Yeah, as for this, that is something I do kind of agree with. That in the show, if this season was longer, like had more episodes to it, and there's gonna be more with them, that would be like maybe there'd be room for there to be more development. But yeah, there's with the nine episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the 9 episodes we've had, they could have had some more time, I think, to connect with it. I mean, yeah, a lot of time. I don't know. It's
I think between 13 and 15 episode run would have been a great stretch to
yeah,
fill a compelling character build.
I think so too. I wouldn't say that it's forced myself, but I do think that it could have definitely been more solid. It doesn't feel as solid as it could be, like for him to be
Right.
definitively wanting to like stick with her and like have a future with her,
Yeah.
essentially. A little bit more context and scenes together would have helped, I think.
The way that she speaks to him, like in the beginning when they're walking and before they get to the building where they meet the giraffes and whatnot, that's just the way that she speaks to him is very like, okay, I don't get the feeling that they have a relationship as well as one would.
Right. What do you think, Angus? You're being quiet over there.
I'm just taking this in.
I know.
I'm not one to usually just like eat up what a show or movie has given me without being like critical, but I totally buy it. Like there's enough there where it's like at first like, oh, this what a cunt. And then it's kind of like she's kind of like Ahsoka, I guess, in a more condensed version where it's like, unlikable. And it's like, okay, she's kind of like the fact that she starts like freaking out like she's infected and turning. And I'm like, whoa, you're an idiot. This guy has been doing this for 20 years. He could have just shot you right there. And like just that kind of humor to her. Her crassness, she grew on me pretty quick. So I don't know. I really did buy the relationship and both characters and their investment, what they chose to show them go through, to have that connection and trust over time. Once we got to episode 6 when they are at those Indians' house, and there's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny. There was a lot of fun between them, but I just don't get the feeling that their interactions between each other don't feel like that it's been built enough to want to like risk my life to go after and save her.
I feel like it's enough for the risk to be there, but I feel like there should be a little bit more for like him to want to commit to like looking after her beyond this. I feel like this was still like if they had a couple more episodes to like have a few more events, really tie them together, I think would make it more satisfying. I think because I think I see the threads that are here, but it's not ending satisfactorily enough for me.
Yeah, no, the ending didn't quite stick for me. That's my dissatisfaction. This felt,
but I mean, I'm talking about at the beginning of the episode too. It's like I don't know, something about the mood at the beginning of the episode made it not as strong to me either.
It felt maybe they wrote the show ending a bit too aware of the audience. Maybe does that make sense?
Maybe. I mean, he said like he's saying that in the game they were like a little happier at this point before going in the hospital. In this, they seem depressed as hell before going to the hospital, and I'm not exactly like I can see the weight of their events is sucks and all, but
well,
I don't know.
It was in the show. It felt like that she knew that she was it was a one-way journey in the hospital.
Right, like she has like a spider sense of the story plot that's gonna unfold or something.
But in the game, there was never even that sense, and nobody even knew it going in. Nobody knew until they were in the hospital, and Marlene was talking to him. But for the most part, everybody
I feel like
cool.
They should have drug it. I feel like they should have stretched out the hospital because it felt very quick. Where it's like, oh, you're not coming out. He's in the hospital. And it's like, all right, she's already ready for surgery. And he's like, wait, surgery? He's like, all right, kick him out and shoot him if he fights back. And it's like, all right, we're just leaving now. And
it was literally like you blink and you miss it. I liked the montage of the killing, but it was like that was it though.
That section was pretty much lifted from the game. Like you get all right. So leading up to the hospital, you go to you're kind of going underground. There's a segment where after you see the giraffes, you've got to go underground through some tunnels, and then there's a section where you are at the tunnels are full of water. So you get on a like a pallet or something, and she floats because she can't swim. So she gets on top of the pallet, and you're pushing her through the water. Well, a wave, something shifts, a car shifts or something, knocks her off. She starts to drown. The current picks up, and next thing you know, like you guys are getting washed up. She went under for so long she lost consciousness, and you're like so beaten and battered from smashing up against cars that when you land on the riverbank or whatever, you're right there at the hospital with the Firefly men that are like kind of just standing there. So when they see you come up, like they hit him with the gun, and next thing you know, you're waking up in the hospital.
Yeah, I feel like having an event like that, or some type of event that they get caught up in, and then they get taken, I think would have been better, because this was like a really rushed way of throw the flash, and then you got him. It's
Yeah.
like, what? Like that. That seems like a really quick way to write something out. Like, as if they had a whole scene filmed, and then they're like, fuck that. Let's just do a throw grenade, and they'll get captured that way. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like they should have like maybe have some sort of sequence where he still gets knocked out, but then it's like, oh, sorry about that. We just, our guys are really
can't take chances with people. We gotta be
right.
careful.
Yeah, like they're very tense and they're ready for action. This is what they're trained for. And some sort of like, all right, let's dust this guy off, let's get them all nice, and yeah, here's Ellie, and make him feel at ease. I'm like, all right, so yeah, we've been talking to Ellie, we're gonna get her prepped for, drawing her blood or whatever, but they're gonna do the surgery and it's gonna kill her, but they're kind of just like passing everything over nice and easy, keeping Joel calm, and
Everything still feels so tense, though. It's all gloom, and
Yeah.
it was very like as if somebody just fucking died, and there's like all dark. I don't know, like even the giraffe scene felt sad. I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't happy. Like I felt more, like way more, like even the animatronic on Jurassic Park, like, oh, we're feeding the thingy. It's this like a lighthearted moment, even though you just got attacked by T-Rex and shit. And this is like, just felt like, look at the giraffe. Isn't this sad? That was
Well,
unfortunately what I got here.
I'm wondering if they knew that the fans of the game would know that, hey, what's about to happen. So I'm not wondering if they went in with that kind of like an attitude of like everybody knows what's about to happen.
But I feel like if they knew that and took the mood into a different direction, I think that'd still be better. Because
Oh yeah,
I feel like if they do it all based on, well, how's our audience reacting to this scene, do you think? And then
yeah.
change it based on that. I don't know how that'd work with the story, to be honest.
Well, see, my first playthrough, I didn't know that that was what's going to happen. That they were going to end up having to kill Ellie to get it out. So, like at that point, I knew that I'm like getting close to the end of the game. So the mood felt more alive, more positive. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but it is weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like other properties where it's like, oh, if the audience knows this is happening, should we change it because they know? I mean, I feel like no, they should still do whatever it is. I mean, they still did all the things here, right? They just made the mood more somber the whole time, and I'm like, I don't know, I didn't like, not that I need to feel uplifted in every scene. I mean, Angus and I, we watch a lot of dark shit sometimes, but it's like for the purpose of his choice, I feel like there should have been some joy, some tension, and then the gloom in the hospital when he wakes up and this is what he gets up to, where it's like, oh shit, like the things were going great, we had a tense situation, but we got out of it okay, and then these guys fucking captured us and separated us, and they want to kill her. Fuck no. Like something like that for the flow, at least in a show, watching the events would feel, I think, a little bit better to end it out.
Yeah.
That's how I would have probably tried to structure it. I could have to say. But I don't know. Like, I don't even know what to really say next. We pretty much talked about the whole episode at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole episode. Like, so the doctor, right, that he shoots, that's Abby's dad, right?
Yes.
I thought they would have done something. This may be a stupid thing to do as well, but for a show, and like you said, people know what's happening and stuff. They know Last of Us 2. I thought it'd be at least I don't know if it'd be funny or interesting if like if they were greeted friendly to the Fireflies here of this group, and it's like, oh, he's having a beer with this guy or something. Oh, they're talking about their kids and what's going good, or like they're talking about, like, even though there's all this stupid stuff, it's going good. I don't know. And then later they're taking some blood from Ellie or something. She's like sleeping, and it's like, ooh, the only way we could probably do this is like from her brain juice or something. It's like, well, okay, well, we gotta tell Joel, or no, I don't know. I don't know if you should. I don't know. He's a problem with that, and have some other type of conflict. This is where I think it should be a little different from the game, because like I think that it's, in some ways they should veer from the game, because this apparently happened pretty much like the game, right? But
Oh yeah.
this didn't feel anything like the game, did it? It felt
No.
worse,
Yeah.
I assume. So it's like, I feel like a change would have maybe made the show part, better, at least for the show.
Well, I mean, you spend a little over an hour and a half in the process of from when you wake up to the time that you carry Ellie out ish.
Wow.
Hour 20, hour 30, something like that. So I mean, for an hour you're like roaming this hospital, like just slaughtering people. So I mean, you have a wide time frame of like emotional, ups and downs and whatnot. So I don't know if it allows you to feel better after being able to spend time in a place, and that's kind of why I said that it felt rushed. The episode felt rushed.
It
Is
felt like the
because
shortest episode, was it?
it was.
Yeah.
It felt like it was like
felt-
less than a half an hour.
Yeah, this episode does feel rushed.
It was about 46 minutes.
What the fuck? Like, no way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we started watching at like 9:20, and then we were done with everything, and the the showrunner and Druckmann and the actors talk after the show. It's probably 50 minutes.
So
Yeah, I don't know. It felt short, is all, I guess. And you think the last episode is one that you could have longer.
Stretch out.
Wasn't the first episode like over an hour?
I expected it to be an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was somewhere between that, I mean, that'd still be a lot better. I feel like that's what it needed. I mean, this whole season actually feels like it really could have had more episodes. I don't know why they picked 9. That seems like such a random number to land on.
Well, there was so much of it that had to be filled in because, for instance, in last week's episode where she ran into the cannibal people. All right, after she fights David, like you automatically go back to Joel's perspective, and you have to leave the house and you have to go find Ellie.
Okay.
So like you're spending a lot of time, like in between these major cut moments, that the show has brought you. Like for instance, when Ellie was trying to lead the hunters or cannibals, whatever you want to call them, away in the game, like you go on a long chase, like you lead them away. In the show, she took off on a horse. They shot the horse, and she just fell.
Well, I mean, so I guess this is the problem when it's like there is the game version and gameplay, and then the show. So, what would you, having played the game, knowing that I don't know if you can just have the same, like, here's a chase. Like, would we just watch Joel in the show chase, or watch them chase her or something? Like, I feel like, what do you think they should do in replacement?
I feel
of
like
that or something?
they should show that he's traveling to get her. You don't have to show, you don't have to take every step with him, but to see him come out of the house, to see him maybe be ambushed, he does have to interrogate people to find out where the community is.
So did you like his interrogation in the show, at least? So I feel like my solution might be, especially since people want more zombies in it, like, even if he doesn't have to fight any, if he's trying to get there, he's still kind of injured, he's trying to get to Ellie before it's too late.
Sneak around.
But then there's like some zombies though, and he's got to sneak around them quietly. And I don't even want there to be an actual skirmish here with them, but like have that be intense. Like he's got
Just
to
the
hurry, but he's
threat.
got to go slow, and he's got to do
He's
this.
got to do
injured.
the time
he's
to do
injured.
the time.
Yeah, he's injured, and he doesn't like him being trying to fight these off might like wear him out.
Yeah.
Like he's got to go. Like that would be a good tense.
He's still
scene
got
to
that
have
fresh
here.
wound to his gut.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he can't just fight these zombies. He's got to go, but he's got to hurry. But so that would be a great type of scene, I think, to have in place of showing so much of getting there and stuff like that. That'd be a good compromise, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that, and that gives some like a scene for some zombies. And there wasn't a huge battle here, but still, it's tense. That'd be good. I think in the game too. Like, wasn't there like an ambush when like on Ellie and what's his face when they talked? I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think in the show that would have been a good time for it. However, I think like if a few were even approaching the town and like to see how they deal with it or something, and maybe she like I don't know if there was some type of thing that makes it seem like okay, these are okay people, but then it's like, well, no. Then she sees like the human remains, and it's like, wait a second, like. Hold on, these people are good, but they're not. Wait, what the fuck? Something like that, where it's like she's connecting dots. That's like, oh, these guys are good, but then holy fuck, no, there's a human ear next door. Like what? What is that?
See, during that section though, you kind of have to trust. Where we were talking about, where you were just talking about Ellie and David having that conversation, and the conversation is them kind of talking, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere he tells her that he's been looking for him, and see that didn't happen that way in the game. You had to take some time and trust David, and you guys had to work together, and that was kind of that. Okay, this is going to be a good situation, this will be an all right situation, turns into in the show it's like, oh well, he's a bad guy. So
yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it being different in the show, but I do agree that I do wish there was something else for us to chew on than it just being definitively don't trust them.
Yeah,
I wish there was something like that, at least something else to chew on, because
and
it was pretty simple that way. But.
There was a whole bunch of bloaters in the game that we never got to really see. We only got to see one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of bloaters, that brought me to Kathleen in the show. I know she's not in the game, but with the whole sequence in this last episode, the purpose of Kathleen is reflective of Joel, where it's like, wow, you kill a doctor, like all the utility that guy could bring to your community, even with your personal vendetta. It's like smart person, a sound leader would have the restraint for a personal vendetta, seeing the like long-term benefit. And Kathleen's like, I don't care. You're part of the problem that got my brother killed, pal. And that's reflective of Joel. And I like that. It's comparative.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that maybe it was me. I was very like, Joel's a good dude at the end of The Last of Us, because like he was a badass, but like you felt like morally he made the right decisions on things. So I feel like the second one is what really colored people's perspective on making him a bad guy.
I don't know, because even not like I've only learned about the second game, because of the show, and even before that, I'm like the end of the game of the first one. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense that would lead into the second one with the revenge plot against him. That there's other people on the other side of like that doctor that he takes out. Right. That makes sense to me.
But okay, and you get that from the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you would never get that from the first game.
Or no, I'm saying like knowing just the first game plot.
Yeah.
The end of it, where it's like that's why this game's talked about, because it's a moral quandary. It's a gray story of like,
Yeah.
you can totally emotionally resonate, especially for a parent, with that resolve and not caring about the long-term effects on society, killing a doctor, killing these guys that could be a strength for humanity or whatever pocket of humanity.
Do you
Because
remember?
you care about this girl, but then there's like, again, the consequence of taking these people out, not only putting a target on your back for anyone that is still alive tied to them, but just their utility to the world, that you've like helped weaken humanity. And so that's why I see it as gray. And it's like, depending on if you're attached on his story and his view, or if you're on the outside, it's open to interpretation. That's why it's a good game, is because
Right.
it's not definitive. It's like, yeah, on one side I totally agree, you're not killing my daughter or surrogate daughter, but on the other hand, it's like, well, what if you robbed humanity? Like, what gives you the right to choose that? It's kind of in the same vein of like vigilantes, like, you know, Batman, where it's like, what gives you the right? And he's like, I'm not wearing hockey pads, but
Right.
that kind of thing there, but on a bigger moral scale. So I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine with the narrative threads, maybe not the delivery and the kind of like turning on their own creation from the first to the second. I totally agree with that sentiment, but just story plot there, I'm like, totally makes sense.
Well, okay. The I was reminded of this a little while ago, but the conversation that Maria and Ellie had in that episode when Maria was giving her like a haircut or something,
Mhm.
and that they were talking about how Joel's like kind of not really trustworthy. You can't really trust him. Yada yada yada. He's done a lot of bad things. There were several different times where periodically like that kind of conversation popped up through the show, like, oh, you can't, he can't be trusted, blah blah blah. Blah. He's a bad dude. Throughout by different people have made characteristics about statements about Joel in the show. That was never in the first one in the game. So like when it came time, how my thought process is they're now using the TV version to retcon the first game version to add in specifics and character. They're trying to assassinate his character from the show to the game, from the game. So like there's little jabs poked at Joel throughout the first season of this that were never in the game. You really had nobody was taking pot shots at Joel's character.
I feel like
in
all
the
the people that have said it so far, though, are also like morally not so good themselves either. So I'm not sure I take what they say as like the or the show telling us that. That's just how a lot of other characters see Joel specifically, I guess.
well, I mean, yeah, but I look
Well,
at
like it seems like Tommy, you would assume, is confided a lot in Maria, right?
yeah.
Um, and so
I mean, they're in
because
love,
of,
so it's like, yeah,
yeah, and he's having a kid, and he's got all this baggage tied to Joel that weighs on him, and he's trying to like
probably blames Joel for everything. That's what
make
brothers
a
do.
new life.
Like in
Yeah,
that type of situation, like, it's all his fault that all those things happen, man. Like,
yeah, he
I don't
doesn't
know.
want to.
So, I mean,
Like he can scapegoat his brother to uh shift the blame
yeah, to
on
go,
his shoulders.
I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for you. But it's like, well, you also chose to go along with it, so that's also on you, dude. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
he's
But
like full context. Like, well, you're just reluctant to look yourself in the mirror, that you know, and so this is like him offsetting his own blame on his brother.
I think that's even addressed in the show because he said, like, I'm having a kid soon. Like, I gotta, he wants to have like a more cleansed version of himself around. That's not.
Well, I mean, that was
that old Tommy.
the kid part was in the game too, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
I'm just
No, no,
referring. I'm just referring to specifically when other characters, like if they're peppering it in that Joel's not a good person or trying to retcon his person. I'm not seeing it that way because of like the context and the characters themselves. Like if Maria is saying that about Joel, well, that's from the perspective given to her by Tommy for the most part,
Right, and that's fine.
His
But
perspective is not good, and other people, yeah, they like he's done some bad things, but he's not ashamed to admit it as much as other people are when they do horrible shit. They're trying to paint themselves as more heroic, and he doesn't really care. That's
fair, but that's also that wasn't the way in the source material.
I mean, it sounds like he was supposed to be even worse, like even more harsh, right, in the game.
No, I mean, they never. All the characters they were cool with him. They liked him. There was never this animosity that his wife had for Joel.
Well, I mean, like the stuff that he's done, though, was it the same kind of stuff, or
Yeah,
was he?
I mean, it was the only time that you had an idea that he had a history of doing stuff was in the show. It was Oklahoma City, but in the game it was Pittsburgh. When they were in Pittsburgh going through and they saw the guy that was pretending to be hurt, and it ended up being like a attempted trap. Well, he was like, "Buckle up. I've done this kind of stuff before. That guy's not really hurt." So that was like the only time in the game that you were hinted at that like he's had a past of pulling fast ones on people.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I meant like also his attitude toward Ellie in the game is far more harsh than it is in the show, right?
Yeah.
His attitude in general toward people, toward his brother, toward everyone, he's like more of a dick, right? He's more hard to them than in the show.
Kind of.
So I guess I'm having trouble understanding how the pain, like, because a character didn't say that in the game. Like, I feel like they probably could have, but it seems like they went more for the characters all kind of acceptance of how shitty things have to be sometimes. You got to be hard on people, but in the show, they're trying to have people that do morally ridiculous things try to act like they're, well, at least I'm not as bad as Joel, is kind of the attitude they're going with. But that just says something about them, I think, that they're not, that they're trying to, get in a way, shovel blame. At least I'm not as bad as that guy, so that they can try to make themselves
clear their
better.
own conscience.
Yeah, try to make themselves feel better when they're just as bad, if not worse, for things that they've done. Like if they've done the same things, like killed innocent people or done horrible, like, killed a kid or something. Like, I don't know, that's what I'm getting off of it.
I'm thinking of Neil Druckmann. He wrote both games, and maybe I feel like maybe people play the first game and it's a game, and so like these are your main characters, so you're invested in them, and it's mainly like zombies with the twist at the end of like, oh, he makes this great decision that is forever an argument of was it right or not. And maybe like I feel like just story-wise, outside of like the gameplay and the struggle, that this was implicit in Druckmann from the start, that he is offering the story of like, oh yeah, we view this as like heroic, but like this is actually pitting on which side of the coin you're on with like these acts by Joel. That he's doing bad things. It's like Breaking Bad, where Breaking Bad's written so well, where you're watching a bad guy get worse and worse, but you keep rooting for him. Like you just want him to succeed because he wants to get his money for his family, and but it's like,
yeah,
you did the wrong from the start. You've always been wrong. Quit justifying it. You can't justify it. Like that's kind of the argument. And I feel like maybe that's something implicit, but people never really viewed it that way until a second game from the same creator made that more explicit to view full spectrum about the character and his decisions. That's kind of how I'm seeing this, where it's like, sure, there is some like retroactive, like with the first game adaptation, there's more purposeful, I guess you say, retconning or awareness of this guy's bad, or you could see these things as bad morally.
But why
You
didn't
get what I
anybody
mean?
have a problem with it in the first game?
I feel like people did. It seems like people have been talking about this for 10 years
Yeah,
about
but none of the
yay
characters
or
had an
nay
issue
about
with
his
it.
decision.
I think he means the characters in the game.
Yeah, the characters never had an issue. Like there was never a scene where Maria was very standoffish about Joel. This once she realized that it was Tommy's brother, they were like, "You can have whatever you need." Yada yada, and like it was no big deal.
But again, I feel like it's a difference of mediums, and maybe he had the idea in his head but didn't know how to bring it out, and then he's got a second chance with the show. So I mean,
Yeah.
that there's things like that could be there. Because
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is that like Neil Druckmann, say what you want about his direction, his influence with the second game, and agenda or not, what have you, because he said like, oh, the feminist frequency or whatever influenced him on the second game. So people love to like see that and jump on that as like, oh, he's turned on us or something. Where it's like, however much that maybe changes perspective of what he was doing creatively, I feel like this was a question he was always offering, and maybe he just didn't have all the pieces yet with that first game to fully express the dilemma of like a scenario like this world where it's like, what does love look like depending on uh the acts you do for love versus how the world receives these acts that you're doing specifically for one person. Does that make sense?
Henry and Sam, for example, with that.
What about Henry and Sam?
Well, like he killed Kathleen's brother to save his brother, and look what that all caused.
Yeah,
I was using that as an example with what Angus just said.
I think my thought process is I do feel like that they're using the show to retcon one to make sure that the things that happen in season 2 are more justifiable.
I mean, how do you retcon a video game when it is as it is and it's a different medium, and that's that, and then the show is the show?
Yeah, but they do it. I mean, if you tell it in story forms, I mean, we're getting the TV version. I mean, look at The Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead had comic books, and then they went to TV, and there's a lot of things that are different from the comic books that the writer said that they wanted to do that they regretted doing in the comic book because they wrote them into a corner, so they changed it up for the show. Some things were good, some things weren't.
So should they be able to do that or not?
I mean, I think it's fine, but it goes to a different you in The Walking Dead you have a lot of the same story. It's just it might happen to different characters, and it might have just a little bit. You have the same life situations that happen in the comic book, but it might happen to a different person. It could happen. It could alter maybe a flip of it was the right side in the comic. Maybe it's the left side in the show kind of deal. You're hitting the same story beats as the comic, but you're maybe changing up. Not changing when it happens, not changing how it happens, just changing who it happens to. So I mean, like, I think that they're using the show to retcon the original story to throw more shade on Joel, to make him more looked down upon in a negative light through the audience, because in the first game he was looked highly on, and the second game went so out of whack that it really I mean, like if you look at GameStop changed their return policy because the second game sold so bad and people were trying to bring it back.
Right. But I guess what I would say is I feel like there's a huge difference between adaptations of stories compared to a continuation of a story. Like let's use Star Wars for an example. Like the sequel trilogy is like a sequel to films that are there, and this is the next iteration compared to like if there was a game that were the Star Wars games, and then they made a movie that's a continuation, but it's separate. I feel like there's a difference there in how it happens. If like in the sequel trilogy they make Luke, they try to paint Luke as worse than what he was. Like that's that is the literal continuity there. But if there's the games and then there's the movies or there's the comics, I feel like these are all different versions, and therefore there can be differences. That doesn't retcon or change what was. It's just there's this version and then there's that version.
But
yeah, I'm thinking that
otherwise I'd never want to adapt anything ever, because like I wouldn't know what the hell to ever do that people would be okay with. I would have no idea.
I think it's for me, I see this as Druckmann's had these two games and they're narratively a bit disjointed with character delivery and gameplay style with like choice and whatnot, from what I've heard. But I think,
what do you mean choice?
well, like the first game, isn't there a choice in certain matters?
Well, I guess I was
alternate
the way that
something?
people would sometimes talk about the games as if they had a choice to like kill the doctor or not or something. But
no, the games are on rails. Like you are on a ride. So I mean, there's only one direction to go. There's never a choice.
Okay, the way that some people talked about it was as if there was a choice, but maybe they're just talking about
yeah. I've heard
choice.
about the first one, like there's
choices,
and then the second one you're just forced in one way, and so
no, the first one, like I went in the room where the doctor is that you have to kill, and I looked for any available opportunity to not kill the dude, and you cannot progress the game unless you kill the doctor.
Okay, but yeah, is that something that people wish that they had a choice for?
Oh, I don't know.
For the story. Yeah, I feel like that was that's been one of the like the discussions of the game for the most part, right? It was like the choice, but it wasn't a choice. It was Joel's choice, and he chose the choice he was going to choose, which is to kill him, and that's it, right? Like essentially.
Huh? No, you're adding more context. Just like, wait, what were people bitching about then? Like,
well,
gameplay wise, because I've heard this, like the two games have totally different decision factors. Where like the first one, they made it sound like the first one was like open to various possibilities, and then the second one was like you're just forced to do this, and you're telling me,
like, yeah, I guess
no.
and
so I'm like, wait a minute,
yeah,
why were people bitching then?
Like I thought, like that in the first game there's a few more options or possibilities to do something compared to the second one, where like they force you to play as Abby for one.
No, there's no options like in the games at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So with Joel and what you see as character assassination, I feel like with the show how they're adapting is like not character assassination, but that Druckmann has both games have been made, and now he's adapting a show straight, and so he's adapting this now with like full spectrum versus like, all right, I did this first game and people like this character, but then I progress the story, make it, a wider expanse of consequence. And so you can, aside from like what sounds like odd decisions by Joel that don't make sense with the first game, like it doesn't match up. It seems like he has the full scope of like what he wants to make, where it's like maybe he wanted to allude to this kind of perspective, but it didn't come across to gamers playing the game until the second game. And it's like, oh, and that can be seen as character assassination. Maybe that was a deviation, but now it's like, no, this is what I wanted to do. So I'm trying to like in the show you a more gray versus he's just like the good guy.
I don't think they had an idea of a second game, but pre the first one, because there was such a long time period of wait. I mean, 2013 to 2020 is 8
I mean,
years.
some games take a while to get made from what I see. I mean, some will release like within a couple of years of each other, some 1 year, some like 5 or more. I mean, yeah, I've seen there's been, as far as I can tell, no consistency on when games typically are released for sequels. They are sometimes either pretty quick or a couple more extra years or quite a few years.
I
From
don't
what I
know.
can tell,
I've
anyway.
never seen one be 8 years apart.
I don't know. I'd have to look more at some of the games, but it seems like there's some that are at least in development, or some that they were going to make but never made, and then eventually they make something else instead out of the game. I don't know. Like I know Left 4 Dead, like didn't they, like Left 4 Dead 1, they made that and then like practically the same year released the second one, but it was basically the first one just with the different story but some more improvements that made that better. But then I don't know, like with some games, which this is what Naughty Dog. What else has Naughty Dog made
Uncharted.
for games? Were they making? Did they
Uh,
work on one game at a time, or they like? Do they have a whole bunch of games that they kind of work on?
So, all right, Uncharted came out. The first Uncharted came out in 07. The second one was 2009. The third. Wait, which one was? The third one was 2011. The fourth one was 2016. The fifth one was 2017, which that was kind of like a half game. It didn't take very long to get through it. So, I mean, it's the same company, Naughty Dog. I mean, they released all them games for between 2017 2007 to 2017. And there are some points in some of the games that you could tell that it's the same like game generator design that builds like the surrounding areas, because some of the scenes look similar, and the way that a building's built in Uncharted kind of matches the way they look in The Last of Us.
Okay.
So for them to come out with that many games in a 10-year period, 5 games in a 10-year period, that I have a hard time buying that The Last of Us couldn't come out with a sequel in a relative amount of time. Especially it made Game of the Year in 2013. So you already
Right.
knew that it sold well.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but it's like, I don't know, Halo had like Halo 5, there was like a 6-year gap between Halo 5 and Infinite, and that's the whole Halo franchise behind that.
Yeah.
For arguably a better company, or like as far as like a more financially backed company, I guess. And they took forever, and they still delay their own shit all the time.
I don't know. I don't play Xbox. I have no idea what the Halo. I mean, I've played like the first Halo game, I think.
Right. Well, like the first couple of them would take a few years to, in between each other, and then with between Halo 5 and then Infinite, there was like 6 years, but it was delayed by like 2 or 3 years or something. And they still, even now, they even when they released it, it was like not even fully finished. And then like they're adding stuff. So they released an unfinished kind of game as it was, and that was like 6 years. And it's like, I don't know, like all I can say is that at least currently I keep on seeing games like when they released Cyberpunk, right? Didn't they take them a while to get that? They released it, but they was shit, and they had to fix it. With Star Wars Battlefront, in the Disney era, like that was shit at launch, and then it's like they took a while to make it better over time. But it's like technically that should have been delayed, and this would have been a significant more amount of time, is what I'm saying, to have the release. So
which Halo game did you say was in between that 5 to 6 year period?
Halo 5 and Infinite.
All right, Halo 5 first?
Halo 5 was like 2015, I think, and Infinite was like 2021.
Okay. And now, like I said, I don't know anything about it. Was that a Grand Theft Auto 5 situation where they kept getting updates and doing things?
Oh hell! I mean, well, they would keep on adding updates and changes, but they weren't ever things that like people cared about. Halo 5 was shit.
Right,
Like,
but were people still buying it and playing it?
I don't think so. But if
Okay.
anything, I think they released a trailer thing for Halo Infinite that got a lot of positive reception, and some of the gameplay, I think. But even though the graphics were kind of shit, but it's like, oh wow, some hype around it. But then they still delayed it, and then when they released it, it was like way worse than anybody can imagine, and
Gotcha.
it just was like, this game should not have been released so soon. They gave a release date that shouldn't have, and even then, it was still pushed. It was like 6 years. It was like, I don't know. I don't know all the specifics of all the whole things because I didn't follow it so closely. But that's like the only one I can think of off the top of my head that took a while. So for The Last of Us as well, like maybe like it's hard to say, like, you know, maybe they could have developed the game sooner, but I don't know, like with the creator of the story, or if there's creators of the story, if it like, is it just Druckmann, or does he have a whole squad of people that helped him write the games? Like, because storytelling can sometimes take a while to get, especially if you're not sure if you're going to make a sequel to something that could take time.
So, The Last of Us Part 2 was announced on December 3rd, 2016. So that was a good 3 to 4 years after The Last of Us Part 1.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a good possibility that they didn't know. The Last of Us 1 was announced December 10th, 2011.
Right. So I guess what's the issue from
I
this
don't
tale,
think they had a part 2 planned. I think that they put the game out. It sold like crazy. People loved it. They put their heads to the drawing board and came up with a crappy game. And now they're having to go back and using the TV show to justify some decision making to make The Last of Us Part 2 a better game.
Well, I feel like with video games in general, that's sort of a common thing that happens, unfortunately, where like a game will sell really well, and they weren't even sure if it was going to do well at all. But then it like does. It's like, holy shit! All right, well, let's start capitalizing on that puppy. And then you have 80 Call of Duty games and 100 Assassin's Creed games, and like, I don't know.
I think we like this. The sequel trilogy for Star Wars. After Last Jedi, leading into Rise of Skywalker. If you read any of the kind of one shot, they had like a series of one shots for different characters. So they did like Kylo, and it's like half a Snoke story, and he goes to Dagobah. And it's like, actually, this is kind of interesting. And there's like the Finn one, which they try to like, oh, look, this is him being a janitor on Starkiller base. And so they have him for whatever reason in Star Wars with a fucking mop and bucket. But then being a janitor is also like, hey, we got weird creatures in the fucking sewer system. We got to send like troopers through to. So he did trooper shit while also being like that. That was part of the janitor crew. And so these one shots seem to be sort of retcons or boosting story elements that fell on their face. And it seemed like the comic story people were trying to church up the sequel story in different ways. And I give them credit because I'm like, same with Rise of Skywalker. However bad that film is, I give that whole creative team a lot of credit in trying to salvage what they were stuck with. And so for the show, I'm loving this show. Besides, this last episode is probably the weakest just because it felt so rushed, even though what you're telling me, it's a lot of straight from the game adaptation. The delivery of it doesn't sound nowhere near as impactful as the game.
Well, no, just the scene of them in the hospital. Like, just I mean, just him talking to Marlena. Just that one scene was like from the game.
Oh, you said like the killing was kind of like a montage, though.
It was a in the game. It wasn't a montage.
Okay.
It was a long, drawn out hour and a half.
Well, I mean,
Right.
that's another thing of like, well, how should they adapt that to
Yeah.
a show?
I mean, the
no, no.
montage was whatever.
Yeah.
The only
Like
thing I'm
when-
talking about being lifted from the game was just that one conversational
right
scene.
in the
Right.
garage,
I
but no,
gotcha.
with
No, in the hospital room.
oh, okay.
Right.
Well, one thing I was interested in was what was it? Okay, so when he's going around killing everybody in the show, there's a one guy that's like laying down his gun. He's like, "Hey, I surrender," and then he fucking shoots him anyway, which is like you go to Leavenworth for that kind of shit and more.
Yeah,
So
you
it's
don't-
like it's crossing a line. Does he do that in the game?
No.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that is kind of the type of thing in a show that they would show easily. Like, okay, well, our hero would spare the one who drops the gun. The villain would kill the innocent person who lost the gun.
See,
Essentially,
it's that kind of decision making that makes me think that they are trying to go back because it's the same story. So to say that it's two different, even the argument about the two different mediums doesn't hold up because of it's the same story. To me,
I don't know.
right?
I mean, to me, it's just hard
For me, it's like the sequel thing where it's like, I think they're going to try to deliver the second game story better, knowing everyone's complaints, knowing all the like buybacks at GameStop, etc.
We'll have to see because like the way that I think it's setting up is it's going to be pretty much one for one shot on the part 2. Because they've changed one so drastically.
Well, why would they? Basically, I don't know. I don't know why they would necessarily go one for one with Last of Us 2 if they've, as you said, changed one so drastically.
Because they want to make Joel a worse person. They want to make that kill in The Last of Us Part 2 a justifiable kill. There was no way to do that.
But if Ellie still goes on a revenge streak, I mean, I don't see how that helps them trying to frame that, because she'd be going on this revenge streak for somebody that they painted as super bad. And I mean, I don't know that.
Well,
that
let's
holds
back
up
it
that
up a
way.
bit. Let's back it up. Do you not think that having her dad her dad killed by Joel, do you not think that that's justifiable for her to have her own revenge plot, for Abby to have a revenge plot? Like, aside from the game,
I mean, in real life aspect, yeah, sure, but I mean, it's a game. He's a character. It's not.
No, I
You're
get that,
playing
but
as
it's
Joel's perspective. You're not playing as everybody in the world's perspective.
right. But I'm saying that him
She's
doing
an antagonist.
that it would make sense for her to have her own revenge plot now, and then her doing that makes sense for Ellie to want revenge. And so it's like the whole point is like despite the delivery of the game, I'm saying the story elements make complete sense to me, that this is a vicious cycle. It's never ending.
I mean, I guess, but in
it's like the doctor was
hunter,
about to kill Ellie. Joel
every
kills the
hunter,
doctor.
every one of the people in Pittsburgh, all the Fedra people, they would all have their own want and desire to go after him too. So I mean, I don't know. Just from the aspect of the one from part 1, it really doesn't matter.
Well, for me, it seems like the first game is just focused on this narrative, but then you get a bigger context world-wise in the second game, and that just makes complete sense to me.
Right, but that wasn't portrayed to us in the sale in any of the trailers of that game. That was another thing that the reason why the F Naughty Dog campaign was going on was because they sold us one game and gave us another.
Right, I can understand being like misled into buying a game, and that would suck. But I mean, as for the story,
like, I'm sort of in the middle, because it's like story plots. I'm like on paper, these plot points, I'm like, yeah, part 2, that sounds totally reasonable. But then like delivery and character like tweaking characters in bad ways that doesn't make sense for the first one, like Joel. I understand those complaints. I understand the F Naughty Dog where it's like, you sold me a lie. Like, you lied to me to get me to buy this sequel that I'm excited for, and it's not what you sold me. So I'm in the middle because it's like I see both sides of it.
They had a trailer. They had a trailer that had Joel standing there and saying one line, and I don't remember it word for word, but it was something along the lines of, "Did you think I was going to let you do this by yourself?" And when that moment happened in the game, that was not Joel. That was a different character.
Right, but I guess that is unfortunate as fuck that they misled that.
It's like Infinity War with Hulk.
That's what I was getting ready to say. The Hulk.
Yeah, but I
actually like that. I actually appreciate that from Infinity War, because it's like, with all the spoilers and stuff that people like, they blow up YouTube because like, oh, I got a leak, and it's like, well, we're gonna beat you to the punch. We're gonna give you a fake leak.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey guys, I gotta run, dude. I gotta be up at 5.
I gotcha.
No, I understand too. I'm pushing through as well.
Yeah, this has been a good conversation though. I like the season 1's finally over, and I am so curious how they're gonna do season 2, and hoping, if they do, as you said, like a 1-for-1 for the game, I don't know. Yeah, that could make the whole season 2 pretty shitty. I don't know how that'll line up.
I'm hoping it's like the sequel trilogy comics and stuff, where it's like, we're doing it better, or trying to work around,
I mean, I would like to, but I think if they don't go 1-to-1, they're gonna end up like eating a bunch of shit, because they fought so hard on people that hated that, so that if they change it in any way, they're gonna eat a bunch of crow. What
if he gets the club, but it's in a way that makes a lot more sense for that? It's like he doesn't do something stupid. It's something like, maybe somebody else slips up, and he's caught in the crossfire. He's like just unable to get what he would need to turn the whole tables around or something. Like
that validates every YouTuber that's made a video criticizing Naughty Dog over the last couple of years.
Would you like that to be the case then, or would you?
If they delivered it,
like, would you want them to do it like in the game, or would you want them to correct Last of Us 2?
I mean, I in the interest of the show, I would want them to make it. Now, I mean, I don't know how that would do for YouTube. I mean, I think that as a YouTuber, you want them to be one-to-one, so you can have content to talk about.
So that's the dilemma that, like, I would hate, like it. I mean, a lot of the creators have made shitty decisions themselves, and like how they address fans and how they talk about stuff. Like that's on them for doing some shitty stuff, and that's not good. But it's like, if they were to ever if they ever wanted to, like, do the property again, or to like, okay, we made a mistake, but I guess admitting the mistake would be part of that. But yeah, if they end up,
they're
like,
stuck.
Like, what if Joel isn't even killed off in season 2?
I think they're stuck.
What if he isn't? Like, what if it's
but
a totally different thing? It's more what you were hoping for The Last of Us 2 video game. They don't adapt it properly at all. They go totally different, and it's actually good. And it's like, you didn't adapt it right, but it's good and it's better.
Would be amazing.
You were wrong, but the show. No, it's doing a conundrum that we haven't seen before. They're adapting it.
I hope they get like Zack Snyder for the Joel death, and they get like all these angles. They get slow-mo, fucking Flash runs through with the sesame seed while the club's coming down.
Yep. Have a good night.
I gotta go. I'll see y'all later.
Yep. See you later, man.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on. But yeah, I gotta hit day too. I had to push you. I've been up since 4 this morning because I just woke up, but appreciate Men's Room coming on. I put his link in the description, and it's here in the chat. Go follow him. He does a lot of gaming content and live streams and stuff. So if you appreciate his commentary and full spectrum awareness of the game comparison to the show, go check him out. Any last words, Ricky?
This is the last words
of us.